today I want to show you how we can make one of these awesome storage containers with also their neat opening and closing mechanism. And this one definitely took a couple of tries and prototypes to get right, but in the end I'm quite happy with the solution that I found. And once again, I think it's a good practice. And as always, you can find a pattern in my store if you want to make it for yourself, or otherwise just be entertained for a while. So let's make this, shall we?
Good news first, there's only 4 pieces involved in the build, and a button start. Bad news, there's also some tricky stitching, but we'll get to that later. First, I'll use a hole punch to cut out the rectangles for our opening and closure mechanism. The punch outs will go into my confetti box until I figure out what I'm gonna do with them. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Then I'll just use my ruler and a knife to connect all of our circles and cut out the rectangles. And we want the button stud to have something to hold on to, so I'll also punch some additional holes on both sides so we can use it when opening and closing our box. Now, once we got all of that sorted out, we can take our beveler, sharpen it, as you always should before a new project, and then we can start beveling and burnishing all of our pieces. So this means both the inside and the outside all around of our pieces. The only part that you don't really need to bevel and burnish is for our circles, because those corners will not be really visible later on anyway. And I'll spare you the burnishing part because it's not really that interesting to look at, but it needs to get done anyway. And now normally for a box stitch, people would use the same stitching irons for the outside and the inside piece. But the problem is the outside piece has a larger diameter than the inside one, so your stitches will not line up properly. And some people will try to get around that by skipping some of these stitches on the outside, but I really don't think that would look good for this pattern. So I already took the liberty to calculate the difference for you. So as long as you stick to the exact stitching marks on the pattern, you should be good to go. And there should be 53 stitch marks on the side pieces, so our circles, and 52 on the rectangle. Then, to make some actual stitch marks on our side pieces, I'm just going to use my awl and go at it on an angle so that the awl comes out on the bottom side of our side pieces. And then we can later connect that to our outer shell. And just like that, I'm going to go all around of our piece and repeat it for the other one as well. And from there, we can just continue to do the same for our outer shell. So I'll just take my wing divider, mark our stitch line, and punch everything. And here, for the long sides, I'm using 5mm irons, and for the short sides, I'm using 4mm irons, because they're the only round hole punches I got, and I do think they look better for cross stitches. And now I just got one more trick up my sleeve that I do want to show you, because we want our mechanism to operate as smooth as possible. And let's say the grain side of leather isn't exactly famous for being smooth, but what we can do is take some of our toconol and just apply it on the back side of our outer shell, and it will make it much smoother, which in turn also makes our opening and closing mechanism much smoother, and that's exactly what we want. And now we can start putting our pieces together. So I'll just take some thread, and then we want to connect the short sides of our outer shell. And I won't go into too much detail here on how to make a cross stitch, because there's already quite a few good YouTube resources you can look at to get a feel for it. But you can also pause or slow down the video if you want to take a closer look at how it works. Alright, now we get to the actually interesting part. So now we can start connecting our side pieces to our outer shell. So what I do for that is first I pull the thread to our side piece, and then we want to start in the first sewing hole of our outer shell. And then pull everything through and tight, and then start going all around the circle. And then I show you what we want to do at the end. Now once you're getting close to the end, you should be noticing there should be one more stitching hole left on our side pieces. And what you want to do here is go through the last stitching hole and then between the two ends of our outer shell. And just wrap that around like any normal thread. Then go once further to where we started, and then just do a couple of back stitches to make sure everything is nice and tight. Almost forgot, we actually need something to open and close the damn thing. So I'll just pop another hole in there, and then we can attach our button stud, so we can later use that to actually open and close our box. And then we can just pop in the inner shell into the outer shell. And once it's in there, you want to make sure that the ends of the inner shell are right next to each other, so it's not one on top of the other or vice versa. And technically, if you want, you can also sew together the ends of the inner shell, but I didn't find it necessary so far. And there we go, we're starting to have an opening and closure mechanism. There was only one more hole missing, and that's what we got another side piece for. So just repeat the same like we did previously for the other side piece, and you're good to go. It's all done. As always, I do hope you liked the video. If you do, please leave a like, subscribe, and with that, I do hope to see you next time.